The biggest story coming out of tonight, of course, is going to be that Sean Strickland is the champion of the world, but it's close. Rivaling that story is who is next to fight for the championship. I had gotten into a back and forth with Red Pill MMA, and I let it go. I dropped the whole thing. And I didn't drop it because I didn't want to be in a back and forth. I love a back and forth. I didn't drop it because I thought he was unworthy. I don't think he's unworthy. He's a very intelligent guy. He's very well spoken, and he was very polite to me. I just had a difference in what he interpreted I was saying versus what I felt that I was saying. It had to do with Du Plessi. I feel I'm a Du Plessi supporter. I think I covered Du Plessi more than anybody else. I know I'm a Du Plessi fan. And I didn't want to get in a position where I had to argue with Red Pill and tell him that Du Plessi pulled out of this fight for an injury that I don't believe existed. I do believe that to an extent. I believe that there was a tremendous mistake, but it's just not the position that I want to take. When I tell you the bigger storyline is Sean Strickland being a champion, but I tell you rivaling that is who's next. The entire division just got shaken up. The guy that Alex Pereira stopped is now the champion of the world. The very reason that Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera is next and needs to be next is because Chito stopped the guy who's now the champion of the world. At a minimum, you got to give him an opportunity. We have no integrity as a sport if we don't give him the opportunity. Can we agree on that? Like, there's some matches you have to do. You don't have to do Alex versus Sean. Since Alex went up to 205 pounds and I believe is going to fight for the title there, I just want to bring to your attention, okay? So the entire point that I was talking about when Red Pill and I start going back and forth, my entire point was there is no such thing as two number one contenders. And we're at a time in this sport where we're starting to change that definition. But that definition is set in stone. So if you want to come up with some new verbiage and you want to talk about something else, great, get the word out there and we can go and do that. But 155 pounds will lead you to believe that Charles Oliveira is going to do a fight next month that he says he's not going to do. I'll set that aside. Volkanovski says he's got dibs on the fight. Dana White agrees with Volkanovski. And Justin Gaethje, who just became a champion himself, says he's going to fight Islam next. To which nobody has disagreed, but that would mean you have three number one contenders. It doesn't work that way. You would be jammed up for an entire calendar year, and that's if things go smooth. You would crush the morale in the back. Du Plessi was offered this fight. Du Plessi passed on the fight. Now, Du Plessi has slept very well every night, planning to fight Israel Adesanya, believing that he will be next. Sean Strickland steps in as the number one contender. As soon as Sean Strickland signs to have the fight, Du Plessi is now no longer the number one contender. That's by definition. These aren't Chael's rules. The number one contender isn't the number one ranked guy. He's called the number one ranked guy. The number one contender is whoever has the contract to fight the champion. So as soon as Sean signed that contract, Du Plessi lost the title of number one contender. It's very relevant because is he going to get it back? There was no fight I would rather see Adesanya do than Du Plessi. And I think that that was going to save Du Plessi's bacon in this situation because I think that you guys agree with me. But you're not guaranteed it. So what's going to happen now? Do you, like, anywhere in your mind think that Du Plessi versus Sean Strickland is going to happen? It could happen as an afterthought. It could be the bridesmaid. It isn't going to be the first move. The first move is you're going to get Izzy right back in there. We don't have to wonder about that. We know that because Izzy just found himself in the spot where he lost a match to Alex Pereira, and what they do, they rematched it. They rematched it. Those guys have been fought 3 times prior. The same outcome in all 3, and 2 of them by finish. There is nothing about their 4th match that called for a 4th match other than wanting to get the belt back around Izzy. So I bring that to you that I think that we would all agree that Izzy's going to get an immediate rematch, or at least that's the direction they're going to go. That's what they're going to want to do first. In the meanwhile, while that happens, Khamzat Chimaev is going to rise up. Now, I'm assuming, right, I'm talking about if he can get over on Paulo Costa, but now, you got to understand, Paulo Costa versus Chimaev was going to be a number one contenders match if Chimaev won. If he didn't, like many number one contenders match, the next day we just forget that we ever said it. The media doesn't have the courage to go and press him and call him on it. That's not the situation now. Paulo Costa versus Sean Strickland works all day long. Chimaev versus Sean Strickland works all day long. That is now going to be a number one contenders match. This is my prediction for you. But before we even get to that and that being a number one contenders match and seeing who emerges, I imagine by noon at Monday morning, we're going to have pretty good speculation that Adesanya gets to try again. If he does try again and he succeeds, what do we do then? It's 1-1. Sean Strickland just did for Izzy. You don't think they're going to go into a trilogy fight? It seems like that'd be the appropriate thing to do. I, of course, have no crystal ball to know that. But as I start to lay out good, solid guesses with a good historical foundation for my hypothesis, none of those involve Du Plessi. And I don't at all take a pleasure in that. I love to watch Du Plessi fight. Whoever he fights next, I'm going to enjoy. There's just a point about turning down the matches. You got to take the matches you can get when you can get them. Nothing sticks around. There are no guarantees. There are no promises. Israel Adesanya was the biggest favorite the UFC has had, according to DraftKings, in all of 2023. You could probably go back all the way to Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes Part 1. But off my memory, Jules was the dog 4-1. Sean Strickland, it was a 6-1 spread. It was a very wild situation. And I'll never get over telling you guys the story of the gentleman from the WWE, and I'm well aware if I could produce his name, my story would be so much better. But he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He got out there. He spent the night in the hotel the night before. He got dressed. He left to go to the Hall of Fame. Something happened. He got a ticket. He got pulled over. Maybe he got a car wreck. Something happened. He didn't make it to the show. He didn't walk across that stage. That was 13 years ago. To this day, he's not in the Hall of Fame. They didn't give him an honorary. They didn't understand. They didn't just announce his name and play some B-roll. They did not put him in the Hall of Fame. Nothing is done until it's done. And I'm not comfortable telling you that Du Plessi is going to slide in against Strickland. While that would be a great fight, and that would match the criteria, and it would be parity, this is if Adesanya says, hey, I'm hurt, hey, I need a break. Because the first time ever he asked for some time off and you got to go in a different direction. It's not within the company's history to say, okay, we're going to give you an opportunity to beat a guy who took an opportunity because you refused to do it. And I don't take a pleasure in giving Du Plessi a hard time. That's just not my intent. I think he's awesome. Love to see him fight for the title. I would fully understand if he was the number one contender. Just sharing with you that nothing's done until it's done. And when you try to outsmart the house, there's a reason those beautiful buildings in Vegas with all the lights and all the people, they're a tourist attraction. There's a reason, there's an expression. The house always wins.